James here at Penner Trailer Sales again. I'd like to do a video talking about tractor loaders. We'll look at how to take them off, put them back on again, and also some tips and some things to think about while using them. First of all, for disconnecting the loader from the tractor, this is a quick disconnect loader. You need to have the bucket on the front. This is also a quick disconnect or a quick attach plate here for the bucket. You need to have the bucket on because that gives counterbalance and also gives some movement to the loader arms while we're hooking them back up to align the pins. We'll see that in a minute. We got 2 pins to pull on either side, and we also have the hydraulic lines to disconnect. But before I do that, I need to put these support arms down here and just release this here. One on each side. All right, now these have 3 different notches to slide in. I'm not quite slid into those, so I'm going to adjust the loader until these lock in here. Now that I got the loader adjusted to where these arms could lock in, now next thing I'll do is remove these pins. I have a linch pin on the inside here. I'll remove that. And then I need to take the tension. This pin is still tight, so I'll need to kind of adjust the loader a bit till the tension comes off this pin and I can slide it out on both sides. Now what I was doing there is I was doing that slight adjustment with the bucket. I was rolling the bucket down to ease back, take the tension off the arms until I was watching here. It was pretty hard to see. You want to kind of pay real close attention. You'll kind of see it relax a little bit. I saw it relax, and sure enough, this is loose on this side. We'll pull this pin out. We'll see if it's loose on the other side too. Looks like it is. Now the next step is going to be I'll be adjusting the bucket again to raise these lift arms up out of the loader bracket that's attached to the tractor. There we go. So you saw this bracket pop up and out of the loader bracket. In the process, I did have to lower these support arms because they need to be low enough to be able to get this arm to pivot up and out of here, and I didn't quite have that low enough the way the tractor's sitting. So if you're having trouble with that, having those lower is better than higher. So now the only thing left, and you don't want to forget this step, is to unplug the hydraulic hoses when you back out of the loader. This tractor has a 3rd function, so first of all get the 3rd function hoses, and I'm kind of easing in on this, take the pressure off, then sliding this collar back, and the hose will come right out. And with these fittings, you can expect a little leakage. They are not leak free, so you might want to keep a paper towel or a rag on hand to accommodate for that. Now I've got 4 more hoses down in by the hood here. And just exactly the same function, kind of taking the pressure off a bit, sliding that collar back. And might have to do it a couple times to get the hang of it because it's a little bit of technique and finesse. And I'm going to leave these hoses just dangle like that. They're dripping a little bit like I mentioned. Now we have everything disconnected, the hoses, the pins, and we'll be able to back this tractor right out of the loader. You'll see the little rubber caps. It's nice, your tractor, ours will come equipped with those. They're dust covers. So since they're kind of wet with oil, they'll attract dust. So you just want to cover those up, and there's covers for each of these and then also plugs for the other side. But now we'll go through the process. We'll hook this back up and we'll talk about using the loader. I've got the notch in the loader bracket just positioned underneath the pin so that after I hook up the hoses, we'll be able to drop the loader right down in there. Next step is connecting these hoses, and one thing I'll point out, you notice that each one of the plugs is, caps in this case, is color coded. The plugs are also color coded. So you want to make sure to put the colors, match light colors back up again so that your loader operates as it should. When you're plugging these back up, you'll want to make sure that this collar has a nice definite lock to it. So you'll slide it back, kind of get this started in here, and then as you push that in, you'll see that lock, and you know that's seated properly. Now we got the loader arms positioned over their lock spot. I've got the hoses reconnected so I can function the bucket. Now I'm going to use the bucket to roll it down, which will then push these loader brackets down into their lock position. This step here might require some trial and error. You saw it drop down in there. I'll try the pin, we'll see if we're aligned. But again, here you might need to use some finesse to get this pin lined up to where it'll slide back in. Looks like I'm pretty close. I'll wiggle it just a bit, see if I can see it relax. It'll slide the rest of the way through. And there we have it. I'll just drop the linch pin on the inside and lift up the loader a bit to swing up those support legs, and we'll be ready to go again. While we're here, I'll also disconnect this bucket. Just take a quick minute, you'll see what that looks like if you're not familiar with it. You've got the lock handles on the inside. It's just 2 pins, 1 hand for either pin. I rotate those up all the way. I didn't have that turned the best, so it kind of released a bit when I locked it there, but I'll show the process of tipping out and picking it back up again. Once you've got it picked up again, it's just a matter of locking both of those handles back in. With these loaders and these quick attach plates, these are pretty standard, pretty industry standard. So you get a lot of attachments for these buckets, bale spears, and grapples. With this third function installed on here, there's quite a few powered attachments actually that you can also put on here. Makes this loader become a very versatile tool with the tractor. Before we start demonstrating the use of the loader, I'd like to take a minute and a little bit of a safety thought here is the weight factor when using a loader. As you can see the way a tractor is situated, most of the weight of the tractor is pretty far forward. The engine is right here close to the front axle. So there's not a lot of counterweight. This front axle becomes your pivot point when you lift up on the front. Most of the weight of the tractor is kind of centered over that pivot point. So this particular model of tractor, this loader is capable of lifting 2,500 pounds. Now, in stock form without any attachments on the back or any weight in the tires, that is more than enough to lift up the back end of the tractor. So when a loader is rated for lifting capacity, that doesn't necessarily mean that the tractor can lift it without weights on the back. So some things that you can do to be able to compensate for this weight distribution problem, to be able to utilize the full lifting capacity of the loader, is to add counterbalance in the back. One common thing that can be done is to fill the tractor tires, the rear tires, with fluid. Depending on the size of tire that you have, which obviously depends on the size of tractor you have, that can add anywhere from 400 to 1,000 pounds of weight for a compact tractor. That'll go a long way in keeping the back end down. And then also you can put an implement on the back. We just have a road grader on here for now. That's not a lot of weight in there, But a bush hog, maybe you can add a bale spear and pick up a bale in the back. You can even get what's called a ballast box, which will attach to the 3-point arms. You can just put weight in, either steel or rocks or concrete or what have you, to keep the back end down, to be able to utilize the full lifting capacity on the loader. You definitely want to keep the back end down, because if you do tip forward, this front axle can pivot side to side. And so when you pivot forward on the front axle, the tractor may feel suddenly like it wants to roll over. So you want to be careful with that. You definitely want to keep the back end down. Another tip yet, with a tractor, one handicap is that you can't see your cutting edge. With a skid steer or so, you can see that and you can control that. With tractors, that's kind of a blind spot. Most tractor buckets, this top edge right here is finished at the same parallel, at the same plane with the floor of your bucket. So if you watch this top edge, that'll give you a little indicator as far as whether you're gonna cut in hard or whether you're rolled back too far if you're wanting to scoop some material up. This rod here is also an indicator. As you use your tractor, you'll kind of learn and become familiar with where this is indicating where your cutting edge is, because as you roll the bucket, this rod will slide in and out accordingly. Most compact tractors don't have what's called a self-leveling bucket. A self-leveling bucket is if you raise the loader arms, the angle, the floor of the bucket will stay at the same pitch. When you don't have self-leveling, as you bring your loader up, this bucket will also roll back, as it were, with the loader arms. And you need to pay attention to that, because if you have your bucket all the way back and you bring your loader arms all the way out, you can have spillage off the back onto your tractor, and then vice versa coming forward. So you kind of get a feel for maintaining that as well. When using your loader, when carrying weight, you want to keep the weight as low as possible. If you have a hay bale or a bucket full of dirt or gravel, keeping it low will keep you more stable. Having it high, it'll have more leverage to want to tip you over quicker, so it's safer to keep it lower. Also, you want to try to load your bucket as evenly as possible. Maybe you're trying to dig out a stump or there's an object, and if you're impacting or hitting just one corner of your bucket, that can be damaging to your frame. You want to try to be as even as possible. It's not always possible, and they can take a fair amount of abuse, but just as an operator tip, that's something you want to try to pay attention to as much as you can. Another feature I'll point out that most loaders will often have is a float feature. And the way you engage your float is this joystick functions the bucket down all the way up, and it'll detent and it'll click up. And then it's in float mode. And that basically just means that the loader arms, they'll just drag on the ground and just follow the contour of the ground. They're kind of in a neutral position, neutral resting position. And that's handy if you're smoothing gravel or smoothing dirt. You can set your bucket so that it'll kind of drag the dirt out, and you'll be able to use it as a smoothing feature. Now we'll go see if we can scoop a bucket load of dirt. You'll see that I'll set the hand throttle as opposed to using the foot throttle. I might use it some, but just with the movement of scooping it with a bucket of dirt, I find it easier just to maintain engine RPMs with the hand throttle. I also will have four-wheel drive engaged, because again, when we're lifting, it's going to be lifting weight off the back, and to be able to maintain my traction to push into the dirt pile, four-wheel drive is going to be very handy for that. As you can see, I had this pile loosened, but I started with the bucket low to the ground. It's always the best to attack a bucket or attack a pile low to the ground. That'll kind of prevent, if you got the bucket pretty much resting on the ground, it won't dig since it's already sitting on the ground. Push into the pile, and as you're pushing, roll back and lift up, and it'll fill it quite nicely. Using a tractor loader is something that takes practice. The first time it may feel quite awkward and clumsy, but practice definitely makes perfect. And with a little bit of time, you'll learn the technique and the finesse that goes with using a tractor loader. If you'd like to talk tractors or loaders, give us a call at Penner Trailer Sales, 931-361-1122.